Hey, welcome back to another episode of the $1 Million Body Podcast, the intersection of physical and financial success. I'm Nate Palmer. And if you're here, you're probably a high performer, a dad, an entrepreneur, a business owner that is interested in gaining an unfair advantage in life using fitness and nutrition as force multipliers. There's a ton of cool stuff happening in the $1 Million Body community. So make sure you're a part of that group by going to n8trainingsystems.com/group. You can join us there, join and ask questions, get a lot of free resources. Before we get started, one of the things I like to do is just give a shout out to the people accomplishing big things in the $1 Million Body community. I want to give a shout out right now to Eric and Sarah DeBose. They are down as a team in their household, over 100 pounds. Amazing job, you guys. You're absolutely killing it. Today, I am very, very excited because we get to have a conversation with the Let's Have the Conversation king himself, my buddy, Kevin McShan, and Alan Strelchuk, his personal support worker, PT, and really the brains behind the operation. Guys, I'm so happy to see you. Thanks for coming on the show.
And then we're thrilled to be here. Thanks for having us on, buddy.
Yeah, man. To be here. And I'd like to say more of the muscle behind the situation. I think Kevin's the brains of this operation.
And you bring the physicality.
Yeah.
And the good looks.
All right. So, hey, I'm so excited to be able to get a chance to talk to you guys. Kevin, I was on your podcast. Let's have this conversation. You're an awesome interviewer. You've been in journalism for over a decade now, and you've done multiple other podcasts that are primarily about sports, correct?
Sports, business, news, and everything in between. Yeah.
Excellent. You were also born with a fairly rare condition called Spastic Quadriplegia Cerebral Palsy, correct?
That's also correct. Yeah.
So what I'm really excited about to talk to you a little bit today is how you've been using exercise, nutrition, and just pursuing health as a way of improving your skills as a journalist, as an interviewer, and then just making sure that your quality of life is higher.
Yeah, sure. So I like to view life by lived experience and having the ability to sort of practice what I preach. You know, I'm reminded when it comes to fitness of something my grandmother tells me, that if I don't use my muscles, especially because of my disability, I lose them. So just to give you a little bit of background about what Spastic Quadriplegic Cerebral Palsy is. It affects things like my muscle memory, muscle movement, and my dexterity. It also affects things like my muscle endurance and the length of my muscles. So walking for me does a lot in terms of getting my heart rate up. Swimming is also a big part of what I do. What Alan helps me to do from a physical perspective is my physiotherapy sessions, where he stretches my hamstrings out. It also does some muscle manipulation with my tendons of my muscles, and sort of make sure that I'm as limber as I can be. So
it sounds like you stay very, very focused on your health. Like that's something that's top of mind for you. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, you know, I know we follow each other on Instagram, and one of the things that I have used as my fitness model is always active, because again, I want to make sure that I'm acting as an example for others to follow, because I don't like to ask people to do things that I'm not willing to do. And I always say that in life, we prioritize the things that are important to us. And fitness for me is at the top of the list, because I want to live a long and fulfilling life, and one of the ways I do that is to make sure that I have a fitness routine. You know, one of the promises I've made to myself is to be active for at least 10 minutes a day, and it does really make a difference for sure.
That's excellent. And I love what you said about always active, and then kind of being that guy who's not necessarily just saying, hey, do what I say, not as I do. And I feel like I really resonate with that as a parent. Sometimes I'm like, don't yell. Why are you yelling? And I'm like, oh, that's not that great. So I love that you're talking about like being like living into those values that you've had, setting the standard for yourself. And then when you talk to someone else about this, it's more powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. I always say, for anyone that I come across, that inclusion is the gateway to independence. And if you'll indulge me for just a second, I'll tell you how I sort of developed my life philosophy. I had my last leg surgery in 1998, and I was coming back from Times Valley Children's Hospital in London, where I was having all of my operations done on my hamstrings. And the doctor at the time, his name was Dr. Tim Carey, he was a part of our family for almost a decade, and then he got my parents and I in a hospital conference room, and he told my parents that this would be the last operation I would have at the children's hospital, because medically that was all that the doctors could do for me, and then I would probably never be able to walk without assistance, and I had to go back to school at the time, and I had a principal at the time. Her name was Dr. Carol Crowley, and she had called me in her office because she had seen that dealing with the news of not being able to walk was affecting me. And she looked me in the eye and she said that the only limitations in life that I will have is the limitations I put on my imagination. And ever since that meeting with my middle school principal, I've always wanted to be an agent of change instead of dwelling in sort of my circumstances, because I always say that you can either work for your circumstances or you can have your circumstances work for you. And I've always tried to have my circumstances work for me. So there's my story.
Wow. And so that sounds like that's been like very critical for you in developing that unshakable mentality of the kind of the drive to keep moving forward. So I'm curious, Kevin, like, what would you say to someone who was basically like, I don't really like to exercise. I don't like to move. It's very hard for me to get up off the couch and go for a walk at the end of the day, to push myself to like wake up earlier and do a workout.
Well, I'll tell you, if I'm not active myself, I don't I feel sluggish if I don't exercise or if I'm not active. And for me, exercise is a priority because I've made it a priority in my life. I always tell people you can lead a horse to water, but you can't force it to drink. And the reason I've chosen to drink like exercise water, or chosen to make exercise a priority in my life, is because I want to act as an example for myself that overcoming obstacles and overcoming adversity is something that is achievable. But for exercise specifically, for me, exercise is a non-negotiable in my life, whether it's stretching or whether it's swimming. Being active is therapeutic. It's also cathartic to get exercise, and it helps the overall quality of my entire life. So exercise is a high priority for me. And Alan has been a major source of support and inspiration in trying to make sure that I maximize my physical as well as my mental and emotional potential.
I think the word you use there that keeps standing out to me is priorities. Because I feel like a lot of us will say, I don't have time to do that. I don't know. It's like, it looks a little hard. When I think the reality is it comes down to, it's not a priority for some people. So like when something's a priority for you, you make time for it. You find a way, you fit it in. When it's not a priority, it kind of falls by the wayside. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, we always prioritize the stuff that's important to us. If it's important to us, we make time for it. And if it's not, one of the tenets that I live my life by is that I hate excuses, because excuses to me are barriers to progress. And, if we can eliminate excuses, we can make more progress. That's how I live my life.
And if you're putting excuses out into the universe and saying I'm like I couldn't do it because something else was happening or the traffic was bad, then you are always having this external locus of control. You're never really fully taking accountability for your actions. Yes, you were late, but it's because you didn't leave early enough. It's because you didn't check the traffic. It's because you didn't set your alarm properly. It's not the traffic's fault. It's your fault. So I think that like your philosophy, eliminating excuses, and so you can actually maximize your abilities to exist in the world. Yeah, that's powerful.
Yeah, when you eliminate excuses, it's a freeway path to both productivity and potential. So if you eliminate excuses, then you can sort of create solutions to problems or come up with innovative ways to solve them. So yeah, eliminating excuses is something that I tend to do on a regular basis because living with a disability, you have to work harder than almost anybody to get noticed in the world. So it's important for me to set the example, not only for other people, but also for myself. And, setting your own standard of excellence is something that's very important to me, because I think if you have a bar that you're trying to reach personally, then your professional or fitness schools will follow suit. But the first thing you have to do is hold yourself accountable.
Yeah. And so I can't imagine how challenging it could be, or honestly, how easy it would be to use your excuses to like, hey, I'm dealing with this disability. I can't exercise, or I'll never be like a journalist or something like that. So what are some like, and I'm sure there's like a couple in your life, and I know you have an unshakable mindset, but like previously, what are some things that you were using as excuses in your life that you've overcome? And what's that? Can you tell us the story on that?
Well, how much time do you have? No, I'm kidding. For me, I've always tried to eliminate reasons not to do something. A lot of people have come up to me and said, well, you're in, a lot of people tell me that I'm an inspirational person, and I just tell them that I'm living my life, and if I'm an inspiration to them, that's great. But just because I have a disability doesn't mean that I have any less of a reason to live a fulfilling life. One of the things that exercise also gives to me is social interaction. Sometimes with a disability, you deal with social isolation and not being able to be a fully inclusive part of the community in which you live. So just to give you an example, Alan and I go swimming pre-pandemic at a place called the Vollmer Center, and open swim is usually every morning at 10 o'clock, and sometimes have like a senior citizen disability thing. So Alan and I are usually the youngest people there. And we used to, before Alan got married, we used to use it as a dating situation for him, because some of the women found Alan to be naturally attractive. So we had fun with that. And, it's just another way. Fitness is another way for me to be socially connected. So I use it to impact other areas of my life as well.
All you need is one good excuse, whatever it is. Kevin finds them all over the place. So
yeah. Alan, so besides being like just rackishly handsome, can you tell us a little bit about like what some of the techniques that you guys are using when you're training together, like how you see that, like that progress and that kind of like, cause I always differentiate between like exercise when you go out and you're moving around, you get sweaty, whatever, but training is really when you're seeing improvement, you're getting better. Like, so in what ways and how do you measure progress when you and Kevin are working together?
So I like how you mentioned earlier, Nate, about being a dad and doing things like throughout your regular schedule, and you asked Kev about what gets him motivated. And I think progress-wise, like with Kevin, a lot of the stuff that we do, it's stretching or even like a daily like walks or swims. We can fit in quite a bit of a workload like on a lunch break, which some people, like Kevin said, it might take a little bit more work effort to get up and get moving. Sometimes that creates a pretty solid workout for like a 20-minute span, and then we can get back to it. And for Kevin himself, I find a lot of times it's his flexibility and maneuverability, and you got to be mentally fit and ready to make changes. But you can tell with Kevin when I think his muscles relax a little more, and I think his he just becomes, I don't know, a little more lucid, I guess.
Yeah, when my muscles, my hamstrings specifically, feel like spaghetti, then we've accomplished the goal, because then my muscles have a chance to be engaged, and then the recovery process. And after I do exercise, like physical exercise, I sleep so much better, because there are some days where I don't have support staff and I don't do as much physical activity as I would when they're here. And when I don't get stretched out or get exercise on a regular basis, I feel a lot. I feel the impact on every aspect of my life, like getting dressed and getting up and using muscles. So exercise for me is a pivotal point of progress. And when I don't do it, there's a marked difference. And when my PSWs come back, I can see that, when I don't use my muscles, they stiffen up faster than your normal average person. So exercise, again, for me, is something that I hold as high priority. It's one of the reasons I was excited to do this podcast with you today, Nate, is because I think if we can begin a conversation about the importance of exercise, not only for people with disabilities, but it also provides like a more diverse chance for a conversation about the importance of exercise. So I want to thank you for the work that you do to inspire people to get out there and exercise, because I think it's important.
Yeah, Kevin. So one thing that I ask a lot of people when they're either like, when we're on like a strategy call, I work with a lot of other trainers who are like building their businesses online. And I think like an important question that I ask, because I'm really interested in the answer. This is, if this took you twice as long as everybody else, if this was twice as hard for you as it was for anyone else, would it still be worth it? And it sounds like for you, it's not twice as hard. It's 10 times as hard. And you backslide twice as fast as a regular person. And from what you're telling me right now is everything I've heard up to this point is that, yes, it's worth it. Yes, I would do it again. 100%.
Yeah, again, because it affects every aspect of my life. Having support staff and having Alan a part of it is really a chance for me to maximize my physical potential, because some of the exercises that we do, I couldn't do without a PSW. So it really makes having the funding, and that's another discussion that we can get into, but having just the extra set of accountability and having someone there to execute a game plan for you when you need to be like physically active is important. One of the things that I do also is lift weights. It's another part of the way that because I use when I'm alone a lot, I use my upper body to compensate a lot, because my hamstrings are not as strong as other people. So I have a stronger upper body because I crawl around the house a lot. And then, when I walk, it makes a difference. But having an upper body strength is also important. So it's, again, managing expectations, but also holding my own self to my own personal standard as well.
So it sounds like Alan, you bring a lot to the table here. You got the you're there for the accountability. You're doing you're writing kind of like the master plan and being like, hey, here's the path. And then you're there like in the trenches being like, hey, here's the step we're taking today. So
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, thanks. I do get asked a lot too by my wife, friends, other coworkers, other work that I do. What exactly I do with Kevin, and his list is so stacked full that I think together we accomplished quite a bit. I actually got a hold of Kevin through some volunteer work and doing some things with his brother as well, some coaching, and I'm actually on my way working on some applications for my local police department in Windsor. And Kevin actually came up with the idea, why don't you come work with me? I did have the proper schooling. And he said, I had the background, and he said, we can get you set up with some PSW work. Ended up that we, before I know it, we're in front of City Hall, we're in front of, speakers, programs, we're in front of all sorts of groups. And I find that, I get more social work and I get more accountability on myself as well, just by working with Kevin. So for me to wake up and ask how he's doing, just run a schedule on the day and make sure that his fitness routine is set up. It also kind of makes sure that we're all getting as much exposure and as much work done as possible.
Gotcha.
So we're kind of helping each other out. It's kind of like a good team effort, if I can say that,
That's awesome. So Kevin, on days when Alan's not there, you don't have a PSW, what kind of exercise or training are you getting in?
For me, it's important when I don't have PSWs to at least walk 10 minutes a day and do some weight training. It's important. And just for me, physically crawling around the house is an actual workout.
Sounds like it.
I do it every day, right? So notwithstanding the way my elbows and knees look, it's a way to keep my endurance up, and it's also when I am alone, you do work with resistance bands and therapy play to keep my hand or keep my hands like mobile. So there's a lot of stuff that I do independently, like walking and that sort of stuff. But swimming again is big for me because I'm not as weighted in the pool as that I am when I do land exercises. So swimming is big for me when I can do it, and just again making sure that fitness is a priority, because if it's a priority, then it's a consistent thing that keeps yourself accountable. So it's all about accountability and creating priorities. That's how I view fitness. So.
If you don't mind, I think it has a lot to do with your baseline as well. I know you talked about being, like for me, I'm a average guy, fitness enthusiast. I'm not a competitor of any kind, but with Kevin, all these things that we do, it's based off his schedule, and people forget sometimes that just moving the line a little bit does a lot.
It's a game of inches, right? Or I'm sorry, centimeters. We're talking international.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah,
Thank you for the Canadian reference. Thank you for that. That's good.
It's a game of centimeters, eh?
The kilograms.
What is that? That's not a thing. I saw completely off topic, but I saw something that was like it was like in Florida. It was like the hole the size of 3 washing machines has appeared in a Florida highway, and I was like, Americans will measure with anything but metric.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
We learn a lot of both here we're pretty close to Detroit, actually.
Okay. So that's why you could give me the temperature in Fahrenheit.
Exactly.
Yes, of course. Now the real question is, could you give us the temperature in Celsius if you had to?
Yeah, it's about 20 here today.
Oh, the guy does his research. I can tell.
That's good.
The trick I think is you subtract 30 and divide in half. That's how I do it.
You double it and add 30.
or the opposite if you're coming from Fahrenheit.
Yes.
So Kevin, I'm curious, like we talked a lot about physical training and like exercise. What are you doing? Like, what are you doing from a mental perspective? What are you doing to keep your brain sharp? How do you stay like motivated, like, and pressing forward? Do you have any like tips or tricks you can share with us?
Well, for me personally, it's podcasting. But for me, I always say that life is a constant game of networking, and the day you stop learning is the day that you die. So, because not everyone has the answers to every problem. So, the advice I would give to people is that mentally sharp is always be able to have an open mind, because creativity and collaboration breeds perspectives. So my way of keeping mentally sharp is opening up my ability to learn new things. So I will always be a lifelong learner, because I think it not only keeps you mentally sharp, but it also keeps you engaged in the process as well.
It keeps you in growth mindset too. You're never feeling like, got it, figured it out, on to the next. And,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, and if I could just give you a quick plug, is that one way I know that Kevin does this is by interviewing a lot of interesting people from different walks of life with different specialties and different expertise. So if you haven't checked out his podcast yet, let's have this conversation. You're going to want to do that, because if like, there's going to be something for you in there between the people and the experts that Kevin talks to on a regular basis. And maybe your thing isn't podcasting. Maybe your thing is like watching YouTube videos, but either way, like making sure that you have that open mind. You're never thinking that you know it all, or you're done learning. But like you said, Kevin, being a lifelong learner is going to keep you sharp forever, and it's going to keep it fun too. So thanks for that.
Yeah. And you're on the podcast, so people have to listen, right?
That's right. Hey, so Kevin, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing some stuff. But before we go, like, is there one other thing that you think that you would like to share with this audience, or something that you are really passionate about that we did not get a chance to touch on today?
No, I would just say for people that are listening to this, obviously they're motivated to keep their fitness levels at their peak level. But I would just say that fitness is something that we're all given at birth, but it's not something that is guaranteed forever. So it's something that we always have to be sort of constantly looking to improve or enhance, because when you prioritize your fitness, all the other aspects of your life will fall into line. And when you feel good physically, the rest of your life will multiply. And what I mean by that is, if you value your fitness, every other goal that you have in life will find a way to manifest, because your fitness will put you in a growth mindset to be a better person.
Well said. And a word that I think a lot about in terms of fitness is amplify. I feel like fitness amplifies so many other areas of your life. So really well said. Alan, same question. Anything you want to leave us with?
Yeah, I like to say that, you got to stay motivated. I think a lot of people think that, things got to come to you. And a lot of the work, like I said earlier, that me and Kevin do together, a lot of it's advocacy work, and it's things that he's created himself and positions that he has proposed and put himself out on the line. And, it's not just, your fitness and your mental, but also emotional sometimes, and being able to put yourself on the line and get out there and like push the limits a little bit and see what's available to you, especially now that everything's starting to open up more. And I'm looking forward to seeing where everything takes us,
Yeah, Alan and I are looking forward to getting back to the swimming pool because because of the pandemic, some of the recreational centers have been closed here in Windsor. So Alan and I are looking forward to getting my legs feeling like spaghetti again, because it's important.
Now you got the secret.
I was going to say, you guys would look good in Cancun right now.
We got the leg work going, that's for sure.
That's
We don't skip leg day, Kev.
A leg day is very important. Yeah.
Hey, you let me know when you go to Cancun. I'll get you guys matching Speedos. No problem.
And you'll
Show
be
off
the
those
first,
bad boys.
You'll be the first
All
person we
right.
call. Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate you guys taking some time to drop some wisdom and just share with us. I think you said it best at the end there, Kevin, that fitness is going to amplify. It's going to help grow everything else in your life, man. So where can people catch up with you, find out more about you, Kevin?
Yeah, so all my podcasting stuff is on my website, kevinmcshan.com. You can also find the podcast on YouTube. Just type in "Let's Have This Conversation" and my name afterwards, and everything comes up.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you, Alan. It was great to see you guys. Have an amazing rest of your day, and we'll talk soon.
Good talking to you, Nate.